All right, let's jump right in. Today we're diving into something pretty wild, maybe even a little unsettling, about your own mind. It's the idea that some of your most vivid, most important memories might be completely made up. And the crazy part, you'd probably never even know.
So let me ask you, have you ever gotten into one of those arguments with a friend or family member, maybe about something that happened years ago, and you're just so sure you remember it perfectly, only for them to pull out a photo or a message that proves you were completely wrong? It's a weird, disorienting feeling, right? Well, that feeling is exactly what we're going to unpack today.
Okay, so to really get how a memory can be totally false, we first have to tackle this huge misunderstanding that almost all of us have. I like to call it the perfect memory illusion. Most of us, we think our memory works like a video camera. We experience something, hit record, and then that memory gets stored in our brain like a perfect, flawless video file. But the science tells a totally different story. The reality is, our memory is much more like a creative storyteller. Every single time we remember something, we're not just playing it back, we're actually rebuilding it, reconstructing it from little fragments. And each time, the story can change a little.
So what is a false memory then? Well, it's basically a memory of something that just didn't happen. And here's the most important part. These are not lies. A person with a false memory isn't trying to deceive anyone. To them, that memory feels completely real, just as vivid and emotional as any genuine memory. It's not about lying, it's about the brain's creative process. Now, this brings us to some really serious, real-world consequences. Let's look at one place where memory is put under the ultimate test, where lives are literally on the line, the courtroom.
And this quote just hits the nail on the head. Our minds are fantastic at weaving together a good story, something that makes sense to us. But a reliable historian, not so much, especially when we're under the kind of intense pressure and stress that comes with witnessing a crime.
Think about it. There is almost nothing more powerful to a jury than a witness pointing a finger and saying with total confidence, "That's the person I saw." But here's the scary part. We now know, thanks to groups like the Innocence Project, that mistaken eyewitness testimony is one of the biggest reasons for wrongful convictions. It's contributed to hundreds of cases being overturned. Our justice system has been relying on something we now know is fundamentally, well, wobbly.
So, okay, a memory of something that really happened can get twisted or distorted, fine. But could the brain actually go a step further? Could it create a detailed, emotional, vivid memory of something that never, ever happened in the first place?
Well, the answer from researchers who've run some pretty wild experiments is a clear, resounding yes. This is where we get to the smoking gun, the hard proof that memories can literally be planted in our minds.
So how would you even do that? Well, it turns out there's a kind of recipe. First, you need a simple suggestion of a plausible event, maybe from someone the person trusts, like a parent. Something like, remember that time you got lost in the mall? Then you just encourage them to imagine it. What did it feel like? What did you see? Over time, you reinforce this idea, maybe even showing them a doctored photo as proof. And the result? The person doesn't just vaguely remember it, they become absolutely confident it happened. They might even add their own rich detail.
Okay, so we know this can happen, but the really big question is, why? I mean, is our brain just broken? The answer is, surprisingly, no. This isn't a bug. It's actually a feature of how our brains are built. Let's be really clear about this. This ability to create false memories isn't a mistake. It's just a side effect of what our brains are really good at, something way more important for survival than perfect recall, imagination and prediction. Your brain is constantly mashing up old experiences to simulate what might happen in the future. And every now and then, one of those simulations gets accidentally filed in the memory cabinet.
So what are the key ingredients for this kind of memory mix-up? Well, it usually starts with strong emotions. Things like fear or trauma can really mess with how a memory is stored. Then you add a really vivid imagination, a little bit of suggestion from the outside world, and our brain's natural desire to fill in any gaps to make a complete story. You mix all of that together, and you've got the perfect recipe for a memory that feels 100% real but isn't.
So let's pull all of this together, because this isn't just about weird experiments or court cases. This is about the fundamental story of who you are.
If you take one thing away from this, let it be this. Your memory is not a factual recording of your life. It is the story you tell yourself about your life. It's a living, breathing narrative that you are constantly editing, constantly tweaking to make sense of who you are today and to figure out where you're going tomorrow.
And realizing this is actually really powerful. It helps us be a little more forgiving of ourselves when we misremember something, and more understanding of others too.
But it's also a wake-up call. It's a reminder to be a little more critical of our own most cherished beliefs, to question our certainty, and to stay open to the idea that what we remember isn't always what actually happened. Which leaves us with one last question to chew on. If your entire life, your identity, is all built on this personal story pieced together by your memory, who or what is actually holding the pen?